Xbox is burning down to the ground, ladies and gentlemen. It is a dumpster fire at this point, and they pissed a lot of people off with the announcement that they had yesterday, and it's not a good look. I wanted to give my thoughts. So what happened? They decided to make an announcement that they were closing 4 studios down, and yeah, oh yeah, nothing new, right, in the gaming industry. Well, this is a significant change because this is part of the Bethesda ZeniMax teams. The acquisition that they had, that they spent billions of dollars on a few years back. Now they're closing a lot of studios, and they're going to shift their focus for their high impact franchises. On paper, that sounds good, right? But again, the mistake is that management doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Is this Phil Spencer's fault? Let's just place the blame on him, right? He's the figurehead. He's the guy who hypes everybody up. He's the one that says, hey, Xbox is here to stay, that we're not going anywhere, that we're going to continue to make high-quality games, and then they ditch new IP. Now, they're saying this decision is based off of a reprioritization of titles and resources, which is a nice way of saying we don't have enough money to pay everybody and we spent too much money acquiring all this stuff. They're going to invest more deeply in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds. In other words, if it's not Fallout or Elder Scrolls, they're shit out of luck. So among the studios that are affected are Arkane Austin, Alpha Dog Studios, and Tango Gameworks. But Roundhouse Games, which is the 4th one in here, they're going to be realigned to ZeniMax Online Studios. Now, the impact of these changes is actually really substantial if you really want to sit down and look at it, especially with Arkane Austin. They are the developers of Redfall, and now it just abruptly ends because they decided to close the studio. And basically, it leaves players with an incomplete game. Like, all support of it is done. They did go and say that they're going to be leaving these servers on so people could play online. But as far as like promised updates, no, it's in the way of go bye-bye, which is a shame because this game had a lot of potential. And when it was launched, it just wasn't ready. It was a mess. And people quickly kind of lost interest in the title. I think this was more of an Xbox trying to rush them out type of thing. I think if they would have let them have some time to really polish it, there could have been some potential with this. It could have been a sleeper hit, actually. So it's definitely unfortunate that, they decided to close this studio. The other studio, Alpha Dog Studios, is going to be going into the sunset. No further updates are planned, and that means Mighty Doom is not going to be supported after August. I haven't played Mighty Doom. But anyways, despite all these closures and stuff, Microsoft is still saying that they are going to be providing support, including severance benefits and stuff, which we'll get into that when I read this article. And strangely enough, they highlight their future game lineup, which we still have some bangers coming out for Microsoft eventually. But you got to think of like Tango Gameworks, right? They made Hi-Fi Rush, which was one of the most, I guess, critically accepted Xbox games in a long time. It could have been their hit if they would have promoted that right. And all these games, these studios, they're making games that are like multi-platform. If you look at Hi-Fi Rush, that literally just came to other platforms besides Xbox after being an Xbox exclusive because they feel it didn't get the player base. I'm sorry, I feel it goes both ways. If you don't support your studios, if you're not backing your studios and helping promote the games that they're marketing for you, the brand new IP, they're not going to be successful. And I feel Xbox didn't give a chance to any of these studios to really prove themselves and show anything, especially when you think Hi-Fi Rush and Redfall came out within this last year. Within a year of a live service game like Redfall, you're going to drop support for it instead of trying to make it better. It almost makes me wonder if they're going to drop Sea of Thieves here pretty soon or if they're going to drop anything else. But this change has pissed a lot of people off. I saw people quite angry to an extent where they're pretty much done with Xbox. And I watched a few other videos, like I said. And honestly, man, like I know this is just business, but this is not a good look. And I wanted to talk about it on video today. So we're going to read this article. We're going to go over this email. I think this email that they sent was pretty fucking tone deaf, to be honest. But what can you do, right? Most corporate heads, they're pretty much tone deaf, right? Look at Mark Zuckerberg. Um, the potential that could have been with Redfall and Hi-Fi Rush, I guess, is the main thing that I'm most disappointed in when it comes to this news. I feel that Arkane Austin, out of all of them, could have done some good things, not just with Redfall, but in the future, producing stuff. So I hope the people that worked for that company at least get back on their feet somewhere and really contribute. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at this article. I'm going to read it directly off IGN and just kind of like skim it and read it and give my thoughts and stuff. There's a lot to soak in here, and I'm sure you've heard everybody else give their takes on this. I know RH85 made his video already. So hopefully I provide you guys some new insight, at least on my behalf, because I know some of you guys are going to ask me during my next live stream. This is definitely a huge impact on the gaming industry as a whole, though, because if one thing happens to one company, it affects the other. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. This news has pissed off a lot of people in the gaming world. I've seen friends of mine saying they were canceling their Xbox Game Pass as of today. And again, this comes off of all the other companies in the world, like Sony and the developers of Helldivers and Shift Up that made Stellar Blade pissing people off. It seems like we can't have one day without gaming companies doing something. But you can see they closed Redfall developer Arkane Austin, Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks, and more in devastating cuts at Bethesda. And again, this is sadly just, 3 years after they've made the acquisition of ZeniMax Studios. At this point, it's like, did they buy it just to shut it down? Who knows? But let's continue looking at this article, because I was giving a little bit of my opinion, but I wanted to look at this article and talk about it a little bit more. And you can see that this says, from IGN, that Alpha Dog Games were the makers of the mobile game Mighty Doom. I've never played that game, never even checked it out since it's a mobile game. That's probably why. Roundhouse Studios will be absorbed by Elder Scrolls Online developer ZeniMax Online Studios. And Microsoft is currently valued at over $3 trillion. They didn't say how many staff would be laid off from this. They didn't say that there's going to be significant layoffs, but it's pretty much assumed. This is inevitable. You're closing these studios. People are going to be out of their jobs. They haven't really commented. IGN on this article says they asked Bethesda for comment. They didn't answer, and Microsoft also declined to expand further. Now, when it comes to Redfall, this is a very sad thing, because I feel Redfall had a lot of potential when it comes to a video game. They put this tweet out here, and unfortunately, it confirms how they're feeling as a studio and what the plan is going on. So, Redfall will remain online, which is good. A lot of these live service games, they shut them down. You'll never get to play them ever again. But they announced, today it was announced that Arkane Austin will close and development will not continue on Redfall. To everyone that has supported the work from our Austin studio over the years, thank you. Thank you for spending time in our world and making them your own. Arkane Lion will continue their focus on an immersive experiences where they are hard at work on their upcoming projects. They go on to say that Redfall players who purchase the Hero Pass as part of the Bite Back Edition or the Premium Bite Back upgrade will be eligible to receive the value of the upgrade. While there will be no further updates, Redfall servers will remain online for players to enjoy. How long? Who knows, but at least they're offering that, right? Now, Arkane Lion is the company that's working on the Blade game, Marvel's Blade. They're surviving it, so that's good, right? It's kind of interesting to see how they pick and choose. Obviously, Redfall didn't perform as much as they had hoped, but they had a chance with it, and we'll talk about that right now. Of course, Bethesda Game Studios with Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Starfield's not going anywhere as well, according to this article. And they say Machine Games, who's making the Indiana Jones, will stay around. And they sent an email. It's pretty wordy. I don't have the email here, but they have the gist of it right here. This was sent by Matt Booty, who's the head of Xbox Game Studios. And basically, they're saying that the cuts are on reprioritization of titles and resources. So here's the email. It's going to be a little bit wordy. Hopefully you guys have time to sit down and listen to this. So today I'm sharing changes we're making to our Bethesda and ZeniMax teams. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles and further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds which you have nurtured over many decades. To double down on these franchises and invest to build new ones requires us to look across the business to identify the opportunities that are best positioned for success. This reprioritization, say that 5 times fast, of titles and resources means a few teams will be realigned to others and that some of our colleagues will be leaving us. So in other words, they're saying if your games didn't make money, sorry, we're going to focus on the ones that did, like Starfield, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. If you made Redfall, which didn't perform, sorry, you're losing your job, essentially. And these are the changes. They said Arkane Austin, again, studio is going to close with some of the members joining other studios to work on projects across Bethesda. Arkane Austin has a history of making impactful and innovative games, and it is a pedigree that everyone should be proud of. Redfall's previous update will be its last as we end all development on the game. The game and its servers will remain online for players to enjoy, and we make good offers to players who purchase the Hero DLC. So basically what I said earlier, Alpha Dog Studios is going to be closing, and they basically said a generic thing that Mighty Doom will be sunset on August 7th, and they'll be turning off the ability for players to make any purchases in the game. So no more microtransactions. Tango Gameworks will also close. We're thankful for their contributions to Bethesda and players around the world. Hi-Fi Rush will continue to be available to players on the platforms it is today. So they just announced Hi-Fi Rush coming to the Nintendo Switch not too long ago. There's still rumors of it being ported over to the PlayStation as well. We'll see if that happens. That could have been a game that made some money, but they shadow dropped it, and we'll talk a little bit about that right now. And of course, Roundhouse Games will be joining ZeniMax Studios. They played a key role in many recent game launches and bringing them into ZOS to work on Elder Scrolls Online, which means we can do even more to grow the world that millions of players call home. So basically a really wordy email in short that says that with the consolidation of the Bethesda studio teams, they can invest more deeply in their portfolio games and new IP. A small number of roles across select Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will also be eliminated. Those whose roles will be impacted will be notified today, and we ask that you please treat your departing colleagues with respect and compassion. We will provide our full support to those who are impacted in today's notifications and through their transitions, including severance benefits informed by local laws. So that's good. They're giving severance pay and stuff. I'm sure these guys will find themselves, back on their feet in no time, but it does suck to lose your job, especially when Microsoft and Xbox literally bought you a couple years ago. Now they do a little bit of damage control here. They say these changes are not a reflection of the creativity and skill of the talented individuals at these teams or the risk they took to try new things. So basically, it's not you, it's me, is what they're saying. I acknowledge that these changes are also disruptive to the various support teams across ZeniMax and Bethesda that bring our games to market. We are making these tough decisions to create capacity to increase investment in other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games. Bethesda remains one of the key pillars of Xbox with a strong portfolio of amazing games and thriving communities. As we look to the future, there's an impressive lineup of games on the horizon. In 2024 alone, we have Starfield Shattered Space, Fallout 76 Skyline Valley, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and the Elder Scrolls Online's Golden Road. I like how at the end of a "you're fired" announcement, they decide to announce video games. Like, hey guys, we still have these games coming out. Too bad you don't have a job to work on them. Talk about tone deaf here, right? So, anyways, that's the gist of it. And actually, this comes after 3 months after they laid off 1,900 staff members from the video game workforce. And weird enough, this article points it out, it's amid a boom time for Bethesda's Fallout series after the Prime Video TV show. And closure of Tango Gameworks hits just over a year after the launch of Hi-Fi Rush, which came out, which many consider to be one of the best Xbox games in recent years. Wow. I mean, there was even a tweet a while back that Aaron Greenberg, who's the VP of video games marketing at Xbox, basically said that the game was a breakout hit for us and our players in all key measurements and expectations. We couldn't be happier with the team at Tango Gameworks. And yeah, so they deleted it. They got rid of the game studio. I stand corrected. This says that Hi-Fi Rush did launch on the PS5. So that's pretty fucking wild. You can see Tango Gameworks with their tweet. It was announced that Tango Gameworks will close. Thank you, everyone that explored the worlds we created. Hi-Fi Rush, along with Tango's previous titles, will remain available and playable everywhere they are today. You hate to see that. You really hate to see that. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are out there making their comments, making their videos, giving their thoughts on this. And I thought I would share mine and read this article as well. This is real dreadful news, especially when you think of, like, how great of a last year or two that Xbox really had. Sure, there wasn't much in way of first-party titles, but it seemed like they had their shit together, especially with the video game developers meeting that they had, or the business meetings, the showcase. It seemed like they had a pretty solid plan going forward. Everybody's always been critical about Xbox not really having a focus, but this drops, and now it's kind of like, fuck, man. You know, I was cheering Xbox on. I'm not an Xbox fanboy by any means, but this is a terrible thing to see. Is it an issue with management? I've seen people saying Phil Spencer needs to go. Yeah, maybe it is an issue, but you got to think there might be board members as well. I don't know how hands-on Microsoft themselves is on it, or if this might be a Microsoft directive, but at the end of the day, corporations are not loyal to anybody, not consumers, not employees, and this has to be expected, that they do stuff on a whim. Sometimes they change their company belief and their company mission, like, overnight. For all we know, Phil Spencer could be fired tomorrow by the time you're watching this. This is not a problem just with Xbox and Microsoft. Layoffs are sweeping through the video game industry as we speak. There's a lot of high-profile studios cutting staff. They're also shutting down. And what's pretty wild is I feel like it's weird to see the video game industry laying off people and people are losing jobs and studios are shutting down when you're seeing a huge amount of revenue coming in and a lot of great games coming in. There was a little bit of a slide when it came to games during the pandemic era, and that's just because stuff was a little bit more slowed down. But now that things are picking back up with music, movies, TV, media, seems like they're back on it. But for whatever reason, I guess this inflation in the economy and the recession that we're in is causing issues with jobs. Maybe it's budgets for video games are just way too fucking big and they're spending too much money and they're trying to cut costs. Maybe we'll see games go to a lower budget, maybe a lower production. Maybe games will be smaller because a lot of games, big, huge open world games, they take ages to make. Look at how big Elder Scrolls 6 might be, or GTA 6 might be, or even just their online counterparts, or any kind of open world game we've seen in recent years. It's kind of, I don't know, man. I think, honestly, when it comes to this gaming industry, there's a lot of money being spent and a lot of money being made, but not enough because of how much money it takes to make these games. And Xbox spent a good chunk of money on acquiring these studios just to drop it. I don't know if I'm angry at Xbox, but if I'm an Xbox fanboy and I was a loyalist and I was singing the praises of Xbox, I would be pretty upset to the point where I'm seeing people online saying that now they can't stand behind Xbox's decisions. Unfortunately, this is the bad reality that we see when it comes to not just the video game industry, but the movie industry and just corporations in general. They will drop people at the drop of a dime, and it doesn't make it right. And I'm not defending it at all. I think Microsoft needs to get their shit together. I think Xbox needs to step up. Seeing some of these studios that are based, that one that was out of Japan, I think Tango, the one that made Hi-Fi Rush, they're based out of Japan, and they're the only Japanese studio that Xbox had, and they just got rid of it. So does that mean that Xbox is giving up on Japan? Is that what it is? Is Xbox just going the way of Game Pass at this point? And, you know, maybe if they wouldn't just focus on Game Pass, they would actually sell copies of Hi-Fi Rush and Redfall, but those games were on Game Pass day one. So I can't remember the last time I bought an Xbox game, like I said, that was not like third party, like a first party title. I just have my Game Pass subscription. So is Game Pass part of the problem that they're focusing on that and it's just tearing into the money that development studios are getting? We honestly don't know, but I do have to agree that Xbox needs to get their shit together when it comes to figuring this out, because this is not a good look in any way to spend that much money on ZeniMax and then suddenly just drop it like yesterday's news, right? So yeah, it's unfortunate that we're seeing some studios that had some potential, like Arkane Studios with Redfall, whether you like that game or not, had a lot of potential, and now it's gone. And that studio's not coming. We're not going to see a Redfall sequel ever. Support's not going to happen. Promised updates aren't going to happen. And along with Hi-Fi Rush and other game development studios and stuff like that, you hate to see what could have been. Of course, they're going to focus on their Halos. That's the moneymaker. Although you think about it, 343 Studios Industries. Am I saying that? That doesn't sound right, right? 343 has been fucking up with Halo for years, and they still haven't dropped that studio. I wonder why. Because no matter what, Halo is still going to sell like hotcakes, and that's their moneymaker. And they know that even if the game bombs, with the critics, it's still going to make money and be a success financially. Elder Scrolls basically pays for itself too. You have Elder Scrolls Online with a huge user base. Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be one of the biggest games of all time. Fallout, again, it's on a renaissance, and more people are watching and playing the series because of the television show. So they're not going to get rid of their money makers. Doom, forget about it. That game's going to be there as well. And then, this is just the ZeniMax Bethesda side of things. Do you think eventually we might see something come out of the Activision Blizzard stuff? Are we going to see studios that are involved with those companies get eliminated as well? That remains to be seen, regardless of which. This is something to keep an eye on. I'm still going to play Xbox. I'm not giving up my Game Pass, but it's not a good thing, in my opinion, to see Xbox get rid of 4 major studios that had major games come out within the last year. Like, these literally were the main games. Hi-Fi Rush, Redfall, those were like 2 of the biggest games that got decent response. Hi-Fi Rush got mega response, like the best response of an Xbox game I've seen in years. And they really messed up the launch for that. They could have made it a lot bigger. They could have marketed it better. Same with Redfall. I feel, although God bless Redfall, it had its issues when it launched, I think they could have did so much more with that game if they would have stuck with it and were loyal to it and pushed it. And just give the studio some time. Like I said, when you really want to sit down and take a look at it, these announcements raise questions about, I guess, Microsoft's decision-making and their management. So it's Phil Spencer to blame. Yeah, he's going to be the fall guy, ultimately. But there's also Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, Aaron Greenberg. They have a full fucking board of people in charge at Xbox, and they need to shape it up. Because if I was Microsoft, I would start taking a deep look at what's going on with management. Is there a sense of distrust against consumers that, the Xbox fanboys and Microsoft and Xbox brand? I think at this point, yeah. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of Xbox loyalists start to jump ship and be like, you know what, I'm done with this. They're just not handling stuff. Like I've mentioned, the handling of Redfall was a fucking bummer. And these studios, the closure of these studios, they literally are like saying, okay, you're fired, but thank you for all your contributions and your creativity. Like, they were known for making some really creative and innovative games. I mean, looking at Tango Gameworks and Arkane Austin alone, Hi-Fi Rush and Redfall, like I kept going back to, 2 new properties. Like, they're saying they're letting go of these studios so they can make new properties, but these 2 studios made new properties and they didn't work out. So are they going to buy studios, make new properties and IPs, and if they don't work out, they're just going to fire them going forward? I mean, think about it. The future of new IPs for Xbox, it doesn't look good at all, because the second that these games don't perform well enough, they're going to ditch them so they could go with the old faithfuls. That's not a good look. So, yes, focusing on Fallout, making Fallout games and Elder Scroll games is a positive. Everybody wants a good Fallout game. That's all I've been hearing lately. Can they make a good Fallout game? But if you really want to think about it, IP development is where it's at. Making new IPs is where it's at, and that's one thing that companies like Nintendo excel in. Xbox has always kind of been bad with that, and the optics of shutting down studios that are known for creating new IPs like Redfall and unique experiences like Hi-Fi Rush, while focusing on existing franchises, it doesn't bode well. Like it's like, okay, guys, we want new IPs, but we're gonna focus over here. It doesn't look good. The optics look terrible. So I think these recent announcements by Xbox regarding the changes to Bethesda and ZeniMax teams definitely is sparking some mixed reactions that are not unwarranted. They're well deserved, and people have the right to be angry about this. Yes, there's exciting games coming up, but that wasn't the time or place to announce like, yeah, we still got all these great games coming out, but you're fired at the end of the email. That was kind of weird, honestly. Like very bad, taste of them. Yeah, there's disappointment when it comes to studios shutting down. There's concern about future of new IPs and studio closures, and maybe this is a small stumble, but I kind of lean towards I disagree. I think this is a sign that Microsoft and Xbox might be hiding a lot more trouble behind the scenes than they really want to let on with us. So, what do you guys think? Let me know.